Reynolds explained that he only taught himself the art of using a wooden sword. Since the art was limited to just 4 techniques, he had to learn the rest on his own. Vin was surprised to hear this about the art. Reynolds went on to say that although he was self-taught, he had occasionally sparred with others. There were times when his opponents emitted an aura of calculated confidence, as if they had fought battles for decades. Vin pointed out that Art had not even lived for a decade, so he questioned whether Reynolds was giving Art too much credit. Reynolds agreed, but mentioned that there were moments when Art seemed to struggle, as though he was not yet accustomed to his own body. Vin suggested that this might be due to early puberty. Afterward, Reynolds asked if they could go downstairs as the others were waiting. As they descended, Vin commented on how everyone looked so good. He apologized for making everyone wear black and white, explaining that they were hosting the event and didn't want to stand out from the guests. However, he felt it wasn't necessary to make Reynolds' family adhere to the dress code. Alice replied that there were no problems and that she was comfortable wearing bright colors. Art thought that dressing up like this made him realize that no matter what he wore, he was still a cute kid. He hoped that his growth spurt would come soon. Vin asked them to head out as the carriages were waiting. He mentioned that he had heard Lilia was making good progress. Art responded that if Lilia continued at this rate, she would be able to awaken in time to attend Cyrus at the normal age. Vin thanked Art again for his help. Art replied that he was fulfilling his part of the deal and expected to see some impressive things at the auction house. Then, they all left the house. They left and enjoyed their journey. Art was with Reynolds' friends. Adam remarked that he couldn't believe Art had to go through all of that after falling from the cliff. Helen added that at least Art managed to find a bond, which was something even seasoned adventurers and nobles rarely achieved. Art replied that this was why she was special to him. The carriage came to a stop, and Angela announced that they had arrived. The gate was open to welcome them. Art stepped out of the carriage and saw the Helstia auction house, noting that it was the 10th anniversary of the auction house. It was an event that both nobles and adventurers had been eagerly anticipating. The occasion would not only be a celebration but also a chance to see and possibly acquire priceless artifacts that had been kept locked away and guarded for this special event. As they entered, they saw a variety of artifacts, including beast cores and even a peculiar statue. Art thought the exterior of the building was impressive, and the interior was even more so. Vin reminded everyone that it was a big day, so they should work together and avoid making any mistakes. Reynolds instructed Team B to check the corridors every half hour before returning to their original route. Art noted that it was good to see them in action, which was a big change from how his father usually operated. Helen revealed that Reynolds was the leader, and although she had grown since taking his place, she still couldn't match up to him. She would be joining Reynolds and catching up with Art later. Alice called Art over and told him to come inside, as Vin and Reynolds would join them a bit later. As they entered, they saw a vast hall with well-arranged seating. Art noticed a man on stage and thought he must be the auctioneer hosting the event. Art reflected on how even having been a king and living among the royal family of Eleanor Kingdom, this was still impressive. Tabi asked him what he thought of the Helstia auction house. Art replied that calling it a house was an understatement. Tabi was pleased that he liked it. Lilia told Art to wait until he saw the private viewing rooms at the top. They began heading upstairs and Alice advised the kids to be careful. A man guided them to a room. Art was excited to see what kind of items would be auctioned off that day, given how grand the place was. Tabi and Lilia made their hands free, with Tabi mentioning that they would be expecting some very special guests later, but for now, they should enjoy themselves. Alice and Tabi went to get drinks. Lilia asked Eleanor to take a look as the event was about to start. They all saw a large number of people entering the hall. Tabi approached the girls and asked what they were doing. Lilia explained that Eleanor was trying to count the attendees and then suggested they play a game of pock-pock. Eleanor agreed. Art noted that they seemed to be having fun. A man came over to announce that the VIP guests had arrived and would be joining them soon. Tabi agreed, and the group of 5 stood up. The gate opened, and Vin introduced King Blaine, Queen Prissy, Prince Kurt, and Princess Kath. Art and his family knelt to show their respect to the king. Art felt a familiar sense of reverence, as if he were once again in the presence of royalty in the Eleanor Kingdom. King Blaine told Vin that he didn't realize they would be sharing the space with the guests. Vin apologized and explained that he remembered Blaine wanted to meet his family again when he was last there, so he thought it would be a good opportunity. Vin introduced his wife Tabby and his daughters Lilia and Alice, as well as his close friends family Art and Eleanor. Blaine responded that since they were friends of Vin, they were friends of his as well. He asked them to stand up, noting that they were there to celebrate the Helsteys' 10th anniversary and should enjoy the event. Queen Prissy agreed, adding that there was no need for formality and that they should relax and enjoy themselves. She was pleased that they would have some company besides their guards. Prissy then noticed Sylvie and remarked on how cute she was, even though Sylvie was reptilian, acknowledging their intelligence. Art mentioned that Sylvie had hatched a few months ago and asked Sylvie to greet them. Sylvie responded in her own language. Blaine asked Art if the beast was bonded with him, and Art confirmed that it was. King Blaine remarked that Art was fortunate, noting that even infant beasts were difficult to bond with, yet Sylvie appeared so obedient. He clarified that their communication was more of a mutual agreement rather than mere obedience. An older man was taken aback and asked if Art was saying he was under an equal contract with the manor beast. Art explained that Sylvie had initiated the contract. The old man requested to take a closer look at the bond. Blaine interjected, asking Saber to refrain from such inquiries at this time and place, and reminded him of his duties. Saber apologized to Blaine for the lapse. Tabby then pointed out that the event was about to start and invited the king to take his seat. Saber continued to regard Art with curiosity. The event began with the host announcing that it was a great honor for him to be there that night. He presumed that all the esteemed guests had gathered for one reason: the chance to obtain one of the rare and valuable items at the function. The crowd applauded and buzzed with excitement upon hearing this. The host continued, asking everyone to turn south and join him in welcoming a few exceedingly important figures who had graced them with their presence, the king and queen. The crowd stood and bowed to show their respect. The host then introduced the man who had made the event possible and asked for a big round of applause for Vin. The audience clapped as Vin stood. Art was reminded of his past life and thought to himself not to dwell on it, as he was no longer a king and had not even gone through puberty yet. Sylvie, Lilia, and Eleanor enjoyed the alcohol being served. Art noticed a weapon on Prissy's attire and realized that Tabby was a conjurer. The fact that he couldn't sense her manner suggested she was using an artifact to conceal it. She noticed that he was observing her, and Art thought she must have an exceptionally high level of awareness. He hadn't really considered it before, but it was interesting that he felt no attraction to the queen or any other woman, despite them being within his age range from his past life. Perhaps it was because they were closer to his mother's age, though he didn't find younger girls attractive either. It wasn't as if he had any plans for dating at the moment. He would think about it when he was older. Vin approached Art and mentioned that there was a sword up for auction. If Art was interested, Vin would bid on it for him, and he needn't worry about the price due to the perks of being the owner of the auction house. The host then announced that the shortsword was crafted by a master smith who was also a fire artificer. Above the handle was the core of a mighty thunder hawk, which, when imbued with a bit of mana, would produce electrical currents around the blade's edge, enhancing its cutting power and even exuding a paralyzing effect. The bidding would start at 50 gold. Many people began placing their bids. Art thought that an average family in his hometown of Ashburn could live comfortably on just a handful of copper coins a day, and the opening bid for that sword could provide a modest living for a family for over 250 years. Vin asked if Art liked the sword. Art noted that while it was impressive, with its elemental ability being quite rare, he preferred something a bit less unique. Vin agreed, saying that why settle for a spark when one could wield lightning itself. He added that even if Art didn't find anything he liked, he would make sure to find other items of interest. Art inquired if Vin had managed to find a voice-altering mask. Vin asked what Art thought of the mask he had obtained, mentioning that it was made from a nightmare fox and had the ability to obscure one's presence from unsuspecting eyes. Vin thought it seemed like something Art would want and suggested he take it while he could. Art replied that it was even better than he had hoped. Vin remarked that he would be the one to deal with Art's family if anything happened to him. Art thought Vin was right, the sword was just the beginning. There were many more weapons and several beast cores, ranging from C-class all the way to A-class. The king himself bid on some items and won an A-class beast core, but it would only be known whether the core contained a beast's will once its recipient absorbed it. Art wondered when the intermission would come. He noticed that Sylvie was missing and asked Lilia if she had seen her. Art started searching for Sylvie and soon heard her crying. He rushed toward the sound and found Seba about to capture Sylvie, who was in a distressed state. Art was initially calm, remembering that Seba was the royal family's court mage. Sylvie ran to Art, and he asked her to come with him. Seba stood up and declared that a countryside commoner had no place frolicking with such a special beast. He insisted that Sylvie would become his beast. Art's anger flared, and he turned around, demanding, "What did Seba just say?" Hi guys, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe if you enjoy the content.